to City Manager Michael Lamar's office hours. I am City Manager Michael Lamar. Today we're going to talk about COVID-19 and how it's affecting Prescott and the surrounding areas. And I'm very lucky to have my guest today is Leslie Horton, the Director of the Yavapai County Community Health Services. Leslie, thank you for being here.
All right, thank you very much.
Okay.
We're learning how to speak into the microphones here.
Be patient, folks out there. As you know, this is a new venue for us.
Thank you so much, Michael, for having me.
I'm so glad to have you. Thank you. I know how busy you've been, and I know that this has taken time out of that schedule, so it's wonderful to have you.
Yeah, well, I appreciate being here, and I'm happy to update you and the public on, what we're seeing around COVID-19. Do you want me to dive right into an update?
That would be great. And, for the people out there, as you listen to everybody and their brother talk about this, it's folks like Leslie that actually do this for a living 365 days a year. So taking what she has to say actually has a lot more weight, in my opinion, than a lot of other people. So again, I'm going to turn you loose and go at it, ma'am. Tell us what we got here.
All right. Well, thank you, Michael. And I appreciate that. I realize that some of the rumors that are out there have been a lot of times on Facebook, and yet here we are on Facebook, and we're going to talk about some facts today and how COVID-19 is actually factually affecting our communities. And as we stand today, we have 31 cases of COVID-19 in Yavapai County, and that number has been steadily increasing over time, and that's there's a couple of reasons for that, and I'll explain in a minute, but 19 of the residents that have been tested positive have been in the Prescott or Quad Cities area. 12 of them are in the Verde Valley. Now, with those 19, originally we were seeing most of them pop up right here in Prescott. And so, of course, we asked those people to quarantine right away to stop and limit spread of COVID-19. A lot of those people were asymptomatic, so they didn't even have symptoms, which thankfully, without symptoms, there's less chance of spreading it. There's still a little chance, though. And now, though, we are seeing some of the cases popping up in the surrounding areas. So some of those smaller rural towns in the western region here, those are still considered to be in the Quad City area of our numbers.
Leslie, why do you guys provide information at that level and not in more detail? I know that's something we get a lot of questions about here at City Hall.
Absolutely, and we get that question very often because people want to know. If they have a case, especially if you're in a small community of 5,000 people, you want to know if there is a case in your community and how you can prepare for that or have an understanding of that. And due to HIPAA regulations, we truly are restricted on how much we share. So we will try to narrow this information down as we go, and we have more case numbers. It makes it less personally identifying. If we say have 10 cases in a community, we might be able to mention that. Right now, the HIPAA regulation says that we really truly need to keep our parameters at a populace of 20,000 or more.
Okay.
So that's where we could probably say if someone was in Prescott Valley or in Prescott or Cottonwood, but we really can't say if there's cases in Ash Forks, Seligman, Baghdad, some of those communities right now that have fewer than 20,000.
So for folks that aren't familiar with the term HIPAA, that's Health Information Protection Act? Is that?
Absolutely. That's the act that protects your personal information. So if it's you and you are tested positive for COVID-19, that's what protects us from saying, your name, your address, all that information, and giving that to the public and saying that you have COVID-19. And so I think most of us, if put in that place, would not want our personal information shared, and we're just simply trying to protect.
No, I would want the service, but not to be ostracized because I was in a certain health condition. I guess
Absolutely.
That's the point, right?
Yeah.
So, I'm sorry, I'm interrupting you, but I guess I have questions along the way. I hope you don't mind.
No, that's great. And I was going to mention, too, that some of the reason that we have more cases, not necessarily the total reason, but the reason we're seeing more positive cases is that we are seeing more testing being done. And so that's been encouraging because a week ago, when I was speaking publicly, I'd have to say, well, testing is extremely limited. we really recommend that everyone that thinks they have it go home. If they're hospitalizable, they need to go to the hospital. The hospital was doing testing of only hospitalized individuals, but now we have providers, both hospitals, urgent care centers, Spectrum Healthcare, Community Health Center of Yavapai, Thumb Butte Medical. All these providers are working together in the community to do testing. And so we've had 591 tests come back negative, and then those 31 positive. But in total, we've had 619 people who had risk factors, exposure, or symptoms that made them a high risk. And of those 619 people that have been tested, only 31 were positive, which is actually pretty good for
That's
our
actually good
area.
news, isn't it?
Yeah.
So on the individual basis, Leslie, what kind of symptoms would somebody have that you would recommend they seek out? First, obviously, their primary care physician, but then maybe want a test. What should they be looking for?
Most people are experiencing symptoms somewhat like a common cold, cough, in rare cases, shortness of breath, but also sometimes some sneezing, congestion. But the fever is a marker that we look for with COVID-19 also. Most people will, if they are symptomatic, will have a fever over 100.4.
So a combination of factors would really make it so you should seek out medical attention and proceed.
Yeah, and depending on those symptoms, we really ask people to go home. If they say they're at work and they start having a fever or start coughing and start feeling like they're coming down with something, we ask that they go home and call their doctor. The providers now have a list of testing sites where they can send someone for testing. We still ask that people get a doctor's referral. A lot of those testing sites have a doctor right there that people can see. So, if they're symptomatic, we ask that they go home, make sure that they're limiting exposure to other people, and wait to find out when they can be tested.
So I know one of the things that's been a struggle for folks is the time it takes to get results, but there seems to be some improvements in that regard. Is that accurate at this point?
Yeah, about last week, it seemed like we were waiting sometimes 5 to 7 to 8 or more days for those test results to come back, and that's not adequate. Most of the people, by the time their test results came back, were already outside of their quarantine period. And so now we're seeing, especially Mayo Clinic and some of these other lab sites, I think LabCorp too, they're being able to turn tests around in about 24 to 48 hours,
Fantastic.
which is excellent, a huge improvement.
But probably, are those types of tests available here locally, or is that an expectation people should see in the future, but not quite yet?
Yeah, YRMC was just speaking this morning, and they have that ability to use. They go through Mayo Clinic for most of their
Nice.
testing. They are going to roll out more widespread testing, and they're seeing their results in 24 to 48 hours, as are many of the other providers.
That's good to hear.
Yeah.
It's got to make you guys' job a little easier.
Yeah, absolutely. And we are trying to get a better picture of where in our communities the impact is. If there is a possibility of community spread, most of our cases so far have been travel related or a household contact of someone who had traveled. And so we are starting to see a couple of cases that have popped up that were not travel related. So we're investigating those to find out if there's areas of our communities we should be more concerned.
So on another topic, at the statewide level, the governor's put out some recent executive orders really trying to encourage people to socially distance, and if they don't have to be out of the house, not to be out of the house. Why is that important?
Yeah, the governor's new order, the stay home, stay healthy, stay connected, it's different than a shelter-in-place order. It's really encouraging Arizona residents to heed the caution. We need people to go stay home. It's the best way that you can stay healthy right now is to stay out of contact with other individuals who could be COVID-19 positive. As we're seeing in Phoenix and some of our larger populated areas, there's widespread COVID-19, and we are seeing it in many areas throughout our county and throughout our communities. And so we really truly need to act in a way that assumes that most people have COVID-19. If you expect that everyone around you has it, you will be less likely to come into close contact with them by staying home. It's the best way for people to stay healthy if they only come out for essential services, and making sure that they're then staying 6 feet away from others. And kind of like we're doing here is socially and physically distancing ourselves. We do want people to stay connected socially, though, and that's why the governor put "stay connected" into his speeches and into his order, because we're seeing that people are seeing these new changes as creating even more loneliness for people. And we were already working on social isolation issues in areas like ours that's rural and people aren't connected in a way that helps them feel incorporated into their community. So we are encouraging everyone to still meet up on social media platforms, use FaceTime, Skype, all those things. I hear creative things like happy hours going on virtually, and people calling each other more often just to check in.
This is anecdotal, but my wife had a friend who had a birthday party via Zoom the other day, and she had about 20 of her friends that she actually hadn't seen in a long time. So the opportunities are different to engage and socialize. You just have to be cautious about the way you're doing.
Yeah.
In terms of the governor's orders, I can speak a little bit to the city's response that I'm seeing. It seems like people are abiding to this holistically. Would you agree with that? Are you seeing that countywide? That people are listening?
Yesterday, being out on the streets and driving, there was a lot of cars out. And I think that people were trying to prepare for the 5 p.m. deadline that the governor set. And now I do see that, for the most part, businesses are complying with the essential services list. I realize that is a really tough thing. The governor is asking some businesses who have never been asked to close their doors, if they're not on the essential services list, to go ahead and close their doors. And yet those businesses that are remaining open, those essential services, whether it be construction or even some salons and medical practices and other grocery, they're really doing their best. And I see them working really hard to put plans in place that allow physical distancing, that sanitize the environment, that the environment within their businesses and establishments, and making sure that people are washing their hands, using hand sanitizer, and PPE if needed too. So if it mask or gloves is needed, people are really trying to do their best because they want to do their part in this. Nobody wants to be that one business that goes against the others. I think that they are truly working together. We do hear complaints of some that have decided to stay open even though they're not supposed to. And I think as a team approach, we're calling those establishments, trying to encourage them as much as we can to go ahead and abide by these rules. And we want it to be, a level playing field for those that are allowed to stay open as well as for those who are supposed to be closed.
We're doing the same thing on the city side. We want to take a soft approach first and kind of reach out, because you don't know, in some instances the business might be totally unaware that the things have changed, because they are evolving almost daily.
Right.
We're close enough to it that we are kind of used to it, I think. But if you're trying to pay bills and make payroll, you might not know that the rules of the game have changed all the time. And we're just going to start with, informal phone calls, say, hey, are you aware of the governor's order? And you might fall in this category. Sounds like you guys are going to be doing the same thing at the county level.
Yeah, we're doing the same thing. And we did that with restaurants as well, and bars when the rules changed for them. And, for the most part, within a day, we had people compliant, businesses being compliant. If they, felt like they wanted to stay open, even though they knew they weren't supposed to, they would fall into line and comply eventually. And we do hope that those conversations and encouragement over the phone, or whether we have to stop by in person, to encourage them. I think that, it's my hope that people will be respectful, be responsible, and follow what the governor has stated.
We've always been a community that's worked together and been collaborative. And I think at this time, that's more important than ever. And I am seeing a lot of compliance just because people realize it's the right thing to do.
Yeah, and there's a lot of social pressure around it too. I find that if these businesses choose to stay open and they're not supposed to, or they're not following the rules, our citizens will call them out, and they're seeing that loud and clear. Now, also though, I want people to understand that there's a lot of businesses who are on the essential service list who who, are also being called out, and people don't understand the difference. And I want those businesses to be patient with the citizens. People are taking the rules into their own hands in some cases, but we're all doing our part. And some businesses have even come up with the idea of putting an essential service sign in their windows, or posting it that they are allowed to stay open.
And the determination of essential versus non-essential was really something that the governor's come up with. And I think this community has decided following the governor's lead is the right thing for us here in Yavapai County. Would you agree with that so far?
Yeah, because our cases have been a lot lower than some of the populated areas of the state, like Phoenix and Pima County, like Tucson. Some of the other areas of the state have seen really high case numbers, and yet we're following the same rules set for them. And what we do hope over time is that by following these same rules, even though we have far less cases and are a little later in acquiring having cases in our county that we know of, we might be able to flatten that curve. A lot of people talk about flattening the curve, and by kind of buttoning down some of these rules and really asking people to stay home, trying to limit the spread of this, we are hoping that will really flatten that curve sooner and really help us to see a lowering in cases, as right now we're seeing increases every day. I hope to sometime soon have a day where it flattens out and then continues to flatten out and then decrease over time, because we're doing the right thing now.
And domestically, we've seen some of that as the communities that were hit a little earlier, say Seattle and Washington State, it appears that they've leveled off, and that's kind of what we're hoping for by having some of the same type of measures.
They did. They took some pretty drastic measures, and we have the benefit of being a little later and having really big spikes in our cases. And so we can learn from these other cities and communities and how they handled it and what works, what doesn't. And we'll hope that by starting earlier here, it'll help to decrease that chance of it spreading to too many people.
Well, one thing that I hope that's been helping in working in a coordinated manner across jurisdictions here is the Emergency Operations Center model. You want to talk a little bit about what that is and how that's going so far?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. Our EOC is an incredible operation. We pull in staff and volunteers from across the community, and we have trained individuals both from my health department, from the emergency management department, and throughout county departments, as well as city volunteers. We've got fire department folks in there helping, and the EOC really is the PPE. It's the protective equipment kind of distribution point for the county, as well as keeping tabs on who's got what and how much they need and how much we're receiving from the Strategic National Stockpile. It's supporting local commodities management. And so we're kind of that behind the scenes support to our first responders, our healthcare providers, our agencies in town that are supporting this effort, whether it be the quarantine of individuals, as we were talking about earlier. Sometimes it's in regards to what happens if someone is homeless and is needing help. And we look at those issues in a way that helps, especially as it relates in this issue to COVID-19. And if someone is sick, we want to help to make sure that they are quarantined safely, making sure that we are keeping kind of in tune with what the pandemic is doing on a national level, on a statewide level, and a local level, and utilizing all of those partners in ways where they can be of assistance throughout the community. Now, the EOC actually deployed a MAC. This is a multi-agency coordination. And this is the first time with this pandemic that we've ever had to do this. And so it's almost a working experiment, but it's working amazingly well to have pulled in leaders throughout the county in areas like first responders, law enforcement, EMS, healthcare, even in county leadership, city leadership, and having agencies that come together, seeing the needs in their area of the community, and coming together to come up with the solutions, and then take those solutions back to their workforce or their partner agencies in each area of the community. So that's been exciting to see this type of support and the advanced level of individuals that we have in there helping us.
I know before we came on air, we were talking a little bit about how important it is for the community at large to know that we're all working together. You're not working in a vacuum. We're not working in a vacuum. We all understand that something like COVID-19 crosses jurisdictions, and jurisdictional boundaries really shouldn't matter. And that's kind of what the EOC is providing, I hope, at this point for you guys.
Absolutely. And what I found is about the first week where this became a really heightened issue in Yavapai County, a lot of the calls, a lot of the issues were coming directly to me. And as a health director, I'll always do my best, and I'll work really hard.
You guys were a little overwhelmed, weren't you? A little
bit. Between myself and my team, we were getting taxed quickly. And so when we deployed the Emergency Operations Center, it's definitely helped to divert some of those calls, some of the requests, and the allocation of resources and the coordination of all these efforts to the extent where I can focus on the overarching needs around COVID-19 and the health implications and what recommendations to make, as well as, working, having the EOC support all those ongoing and ever-changing issues that affect us.
One thing I've noticed once you guys have set it up and we've all worked on it is the messaging is very consistent. I think some of the rumor mills have died down a little bit, hopefully. And so it's a two-way street, too. The information we're providing is consistent, and we're also more efficiently and effectively managing the call volume.
Yeah, and one thing that's really helped in that is we have a joint information center that, city has representation there. A lot of PIOs, public information officers across the county are incorporated into this, whether they work for the hospital or work for municipalities or agencies. And we share that information to have similar messaging across the county. We also, within the Emergency Operations Center, have a phone bank that we set up, and that number, if people have questions in the community, it's open Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. The number is 928-442-5103, and that's a great place to call. That's absolutely helped that call volume issue where people can call, they can talk to a live person, understand, get answers to questions very quickly, and not always the answer they're looking for. If they're asking, where these people live that have COVID-19, we can't tell them that, but we will try to answer their questions and get them resources and other things that they're looking for.
There's good data online too. For local data online, what's a good place for folks to go?
Yeah, people can always go to our website. It's Yavapai, YAVAPAI.us. And on there, you'll see a big COVID-19 link right from the county website. There's also the state health department, which is Arizona Department of Health Services, so azdhs.gov. They've got great information. They have all the governor's orders posted there, as well as recommendations. And then the CDC has a great website, a wealth of information for businesses and how they can better prepare themselves and equip themselves to handle what's going on currently.
So I'm sure the calls are all over the board, but give me an example of the type of call you're getting a lot of at this point.
It varies by the day. Today, it was really focused on businesses and what they can do with the new rules, who can stay open. There's also the complaints of people thinking that businesses are open that shouldn't be. But, we get good questions like someone called in that was put on quarantine because they had a household member that had COVID-19, and they were just simply asking questions like, hey, can I get outside and walk the dog? Is that okay? And can I go for a hike? And we get a lot of questions. Can I go for a drive? And we, can answer those questions. And yes, even people who are supposed to be on quarantine and isolation, we absolutely ask that they respect this physical distancing rules. But getting outside for everyone right now is really important. I think it's good for your mental health. It's good for your physical health to get out and walk, get some sunshine, fresh air. It's good for all of us.
We have seen an uptick in our parks department in terms of people utilizing the trails since we waived the fees. And I think it's been good for people too. I've gotten a lot of positive responses that it actually is not just physically helpful, it's mentally helpful too.
Yeah.
And you mentioned earlier some of the issues with isolation. There is a mental health element to this that you've seen in other countries, and some of the lockdowns of big municipal governments or municipal areas. It's important for people to be cognizant of their mental health during this situation.
For sure. And, I think that we do see some different dynamics with this, and isolating people from each other it's not natural for humans
We
to
are a
be
social
alone.
beast.
We are. We like to commune together. A lot of people like to give hugs. They just like to be close to one another, and people get together socially often. And when we ask them not to, it really truly has implications on their mental well-being, their overall feelings of wellness. And so that's where encouraging people to still connect on a social level, but also get outdoors, find ways of communing with nature, have more phone calls with people. And I know when I get out and walk, I like to get my earbuds in and call people that I haven't talked to for a while. And it's great just to, maybe not talk about this for a few minutes of my day and be able to check in on people that I care about and see how they're doing.
That's a great suggestion. The ability to reconnect with people that maybe over the course of your life you've lost contact with. It's a good time to reconnect with them and have conversations.
Yeah, and you hear a lot about that. People are reconnecting with people that they maybe haven't talked to for a while, that they think about, and it gives them an opportunity now to check in and see how people are doing.
Well, Leslie, what other information would you like to provide the public? Are there things specifically that you'd like to be able to share at this point?
Yeah, we've shared some of the resources out there and how to get information. And I do ask that people try to look for factual information. There is a lot of rumors around this, and because it's a ever-changing issue, it's easy to get sucked into rumors and believe things you hear. Please go to those reputable sources of information. I know the city even posted information on their website, and we've got our website. But also, I do appreciate that people do their part in this. We're asking for a lot of sacrifice right now, and it seems overwhelming at times for people to make all these changes. The businesses are absolutely having to change, so much about how they do their work and how their business is structured. Look at the restaurants having to go to takeout and carry out, and businesses are doing their best. And all I ask people is that they do their part. As individuals, I think we can make such a huge impact if we consider our part in this. If we can heed the warnings and socially, or not socially, but physically, kind of distance ourselves and use these isolation measures now, which we will see, if everyone does their part, we will see a lowering and a leveling off of cases eventually. And these recommendations are for a good reason. And the more we abide by them, the quicker we'll see that leveling off, the quicker we'll be able to return to the way of life that we are used to before this. It seems like it's been a long time already, but it's only been a few weeks here that we've made these adjustments. I think if people all do their part, we'll see a return to what we enjoy about being together and being able to be physically close to people again and shaking hands and those kind of things in a quicker turnaround if we abide by the rules.
I've been thinking a lot about when we do come out of this and what the back end of this is going to look like. And things are going to be different in the world, in this community. And do you have any thoughts about what we're going to learn from this when it's all said and done?
Yeah, I think about that a lot. And I do hope that it brings out some positive changes in the dynamic of people and how they look out for others. I think that with the changes in business models, it may help people to approach their businesses a little bit differently and be really creative in how they going forward when they're reintroducing for some people that had to close their doors, or for businesses that have had to change, there may be benefits to thinking of new ways to serve the public, and yet for individuals, I notice I'm more connected to people in my world that I didn't talk to a whole lot before. And we got so used to texting a lot and doing things that we're impersonal, that I've picked up the phone a lot more to talk to people and to understand that people need that connection. Our families need it, but our friends, and I think that we're all looking out for each other more. And I do hope that those positive changes in our community, and that ability to think outside of our own situation, to look to help others, to look out for others. And if we have neighbors or friends who need help, people are pitching in and offering that help, and that I hope will carry forward.
I do too. It would be good to think that some of the good news stories and some of the positive situations where we are kind of more community oriented will last. I remember, I mean, you probably do too, post 9/11, it was a horrible tragedy and people were really down, but there seemed to be a sense of we're all in this together, and I think that's important.
I think it's important, and we're seeing, this doesn't just impact our nation. This is a worldwide pandemic, and so, it really, no single person can sit there and say, well, this is only affecting me or my family or my city even. This is a worldwide issue, and I do hope that it brings out good in people and that they band together. And I think people, after social isolation for a while, will come out in droves to be together again.
Literally and figuratively embrace one another, right?
Exactly.
Well, Leslie, thank you for all this. I get a few announcements, and then if you stick around. Well,
yeah, I'm happy to. Thank you very much for having me here.
Okay, City of Prescott people out there, I have a series of announcements. Some of these are COVID related, some aren't. Normally at this time I get to talk about all the wonderful gatherings we have in this community and how much we have to do in terms of downtown events, but obviously we're in a different world order right now, so we can talk a little bit about some other things happening. For those of you that don't know, City Hall is closed to the public. But essential services will continue, and appointments are available for those that need an in-person service, such as a building inspection or plans review. For general questions, you could call 928-777-1100, and the phone will be answered Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. for general questions and inquiries. To speak to the community development staff and schedule an appointment for plan or permit drop-off, please call 928-777-1371, same hours, Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. The utility bill drive-through is still open for utility payments, or if you're unable to submit a payment online or over the phone. And a paper and plan drop-off bin will be accessible in the vestibule at the south entrance of City Hall. And the city staff remains dedicated to providing the best customer service we can, especially during this COVID-19 crisis. Essential services will continue, including public safety, trash collection, solid waste transfer station, and water resource management. For additional information regarding the city's response to COVID-19, please visit prescott-az.gov/COVID-19. Thank you, ma'am. Breaking news, we should have that noise. Dun, 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 dun. The City of Prescott is hosting a small business virtual town hall meeting on Friday, April 3rd at 1 p.m. Mayor Mangarelli will host the virtual town hall meeting for Prescott's business owners for updates from representatives of other local governments, Yavapai College Small Business Development Center, Northern Arizona Council of Governments, and the Prescott Chamber of Commerce. The hope is for the city to provide our business community as much information as possible about what's out there in terms of small business assistance during this COVID crisis. There really are some interesting federal programs that we want to be able to be a place that our small business community can reach out and get better information about these programs. And if you would like to watch this, you can go to www.prescott-az.gov/city management/communications/COVID-19 for details. All that's on the website, I assume, John, because nobody's going to remember all that, I don't think. So. Hey, today is Census Day, and make sure your family is counted. It's important as we are going through this crisis. A lot of the resources we receive from the state and federal government are based on our population, so you need to make sure that everybody's counted. For right now, the Prescott Public Library is continuing their curbside service. We gave out, Leslie, over 1,000 books yesterday to people, about 273 customers. So that's kind of impactful to the community.
Yeah, that is awesome. And people do have time at home to read right now.
That's right. So the service is available Tuesday through Saturday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. You can reserve your book or other materials by phone or online. And when the item is ready, will get an email or text and then just come by and pick it up. And the staff member will bring the materials to your car while trying to keep as much distance from you as possible. Don't be offended. For details, contact our librarian desk at 928-777-1500 or email ask.librarian@prescott-az.gov or go to the prescottlibrary.info or call 777-1526 for more information. Leslie talked a little bit about the hotlines for COVID information. Again, the Yavapai County number is 928-442-5103. And folks are available Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. And also, there's the state hotline, and it's available anytime. You just have to call 211. But it does say it operates from 8 to 8. So I guess
It is 8 to 8, and yet it is, I think it has a message option after those hours. So
school meals. Prescott Unified School District is providing meals for children for pickup at the Prescott High School and Lincoln Elementary School. They are also providing curbside service, offering breakfast and lunch. This is for all children. You don't have to be a PUSD parent or student. Pickup times are 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. Monday through Friday. And the school addresses are shown in this post. I guess that'll be at the end of this. Oh, here they are. I didn't go to the next page. 201 Park Avenue and 1050 North Ruth Street. In closing, I'd like to make an appeal to everyone out there for a little extra helping of patience and civility and kindness. This is an extremely trying time for us all, and it's imperative we look out for one another. I know it's kind of become cliche to say we're all in this together, but right now we really are. So take a minute, hug your kids. That's not violating social distancing, right?
No, I hug my kids often.
Yes. Call your elderly neighbor and ask if they're okay and if they need anything. Or just tell a friend you appreciate their friendship. We all need a little bit of that right now. That's about all we have for today. Please be safe out there. And we will post the hotline numbers and information, websites at the end of the show. The next edition of Facebook Live will be May 6th at 4. And we hope we're on the backside of the curve by then. In closing, I'm City Manager Mike Lamar, and see you next time.